Sorry about that. It was a little technical difficulty. Our school internet is so locked down, it doesn't work for grown-ups sometimes. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Jefferson County Board of Education meeting on Monday, August 12th, 2024. If you'd please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first we have the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held July 22nd, 2024? So moved. Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes from the meeting held July 22nd, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Citizens' comments, I don't believe we have any this evening. All right, next we have the consent agenda. Mrs. Loring?
Okay, I think we're good. We do not have any changes for this evening. However, we do want to pull line from the first section of the personnel actions, line 41 for discussion and executive session.
I'm sorry, what'd you say you were pulling?
Line 41.
41, thank you.
Is that the transfer of Jenkins?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, and then I had a question on the consent agenda for the student transfers. Oh, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Twyford. All right, on the student transfers, Dr. Bishop, there was one, it was the third one on the list, going to North Jefferson,
Yes.
and that's the one that required school transportation. Does that mean we're going to be needing to provide transportation from Martinsburg?
It does. Situation with that student would require that they maintain, if they choose, that they maintain enrollment in Jefferson County. I don't want to be
Right.
real specific without disclosing, identifying information about that particular student. There are certain federal laws that we must follow that gives the student an opportunity to maintain attendance in their school of origin if they choose, under McKinney-Vento,
Okay.
For how long?
for the period that they're considered to be qualify under that particular law. Generally for the year.
Okay.
So this is still something that you would recommend?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. I don't think this is working. For the new positions, creation of new positions, normally we would have job descriptions. Is it possible to give those to the board in the future and the public?
Well, normally we give position descriptions for jobs that are brand new and haven't been approved or considered by the board before, but all these positions are actually positions and position descriptions that we've had. The reason why they're on here for position creation is because we're adding an additional one. In addition, all of these positions that are on here for you to consider for this evening, except for 50 that has a different funding source through the instruction budget, but the rest of them are unfilled positions that special education is using the funding source for those to move the funding from one program to another in order to support the creation of these positions for the 24-25 school year based on need and student population that's changed in the special needs program.
So, number 46, how many positions would that be?
That's one,
One.
just one. Mhm.
But you already have somebody in a position for that?
They have 4 facilitators presently, and then this would be an additional one to help support the increase of special education needs at the elementary grade levels. So they'll be working very closely with our K-5 schools in their programs on a daily basis.
Is this based on a state formula for numbers or?
Student need population, special
is
needs.
this a state formula, or where does the formula come from?
There's
So you
no
have
formula.
5.
This is based on the data that Special Programs has put together for what they need in providing the best and appropriate service for our elementary schools and our teachers for the school year.
It would help to have that before, ahead of time, to know why we're creating all these positions.
The data from special programs?
Well, all of these there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, I don't mind because they're generally special ed, and I support that, but it's just, if we're voting on a number of positions, 5 new positions, and it looks like at least one person in each of these positions, we don't have any justification. I mean, it would be, I hear that the director will be presenting sometime in the future. It would be nice to present ahead of time. And so in October, these numbers may change?
Possibly. I mean, we continue, our special education population continues to be on an increase, a significant increase. And the positions that you have for consideration tonight will help to accommodate the students who have transferred in to Jefferson County. Mr. Wink will be here in September. He's already coordinated that with Mr. Stevens and myself to be on the September agenda to go over the data. To your point, it doesn't help you with your decision-making tonight, but we have had a significant increase in special education population in Jefferson County over the last year, the last 6 months, even today, while we were transitioning from school to school during Jumpstart. Mr. Stevens and I continued to get emails from Mr. Wink letting us know that 2 more here and another one over there. So he's keeping us up to date on the number of students that are enrolling every day. Some out-of-state students, some who are transferring from other in-state counties.
It's just, you know, we had these rifts and transfers, and suddenly there's position creation, so people wonder, you know, employees and the public, so it just helps to give a foundation for it.
Right, and I can convey as well that this isn't uncommon because the snapshot in the spring is based on the numbers that we have at that point in time. And then as new enrollments and transfers and IEPs go through their process and SAP meetings throughout the summer, then those numbers obviously change now versus what we had in the spring. And so these positions are a result of those changes that have occurred from that point to this point now.
Any other questions on the consent agenda?
One other comment on the consent agenda, if I may. We have been continuing to work through the administration and the vacancies at North Jefferson. You have on in the consent agenda this evening the appointment of Mary Margaret Reagan to serve as the school improvement specialist and the interim assistant principal. We also, just this afternoon, as we've continued to work through this, have decided that on an interim basis for the 24-25 school year, Ms. Priscilla Rod will serve as the principal of North Jefferson. Of course, as you know, there's a conversation about whether North Jefferson will be decommissioned in the future, and that presentation will come up in the next month. So just to make sure you're aware, we do have North Jefferson covered. They have a number of new teachers there, and Ms. Rod has been in that building for a significant period of time and knows the community, knows the students, knows how the school operates. So we're going to move forward in that direction for the 24-25 school year on an interim basis.
So, and it's interim because we haven't voted. Is that the reason?
Well, the superintendent can name an interim person. It does not have to be voted on by the board specifically immediately. I can sign off, and then we bring it to you at a later
No,
date.
I don't mean voting for that individual. I mean voting to close the school.
That's correct.
The
Yes,
reason
yes.
why it's interim.
That's correct. Yes. Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
So Ms. Rod will be on the next consent.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Hearing no other questions, all in favor of the amended consent agenda removing number 41 for executive session, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you, Ms. Lyon.
Thank you.
Next, we have presentations and reports. We have a communications update. Mrs. Springer.
Good evening, President Skinner, members of the board, and Dr. Bishop. This evening, I would like to share with you a little bit about what the communications department has been doing and some of the changes we're looking and hoping to make in the year to come. I would like to say I appreciate, I've come in over the last 6 months, all of the support I've received from the communications team, our central office staff, our principals, and all the teachers I've met with. They've provided input and feedback on how we should move forward and what makes the most sense for our families. We did a community and family engagement survey, social media changes and updates, a website update. We'll talk about the Rooms app that we are currently in the process of launching, and then a few ongoing initiatives. At the end of last school year, we decided to do a family and community engagement survey. This is something I've seen across the country with other school public relations officials. It's something that we felt would be beneficial in identifying where our community feels we need to improve in our social media and our communications. And coming into the position new, I thought it was an excellent time to go ahead and do that as we started to strategically plan for the year ahead. We sent the survey out on May 24th. We had over 200 responses, which we thought was pretty good considering it was towards the end of the year. They were sent via email, app, push, and live feed, and they continue to be up on the sites if people find them. We do continue to look at some of those responses as they come through. The goals of our survey were to find areas of strengths and weakness, to also inform our decisions and strategy, and to have a baseline of measurement as we make changes this year so that next year we can send a survey with similar questions to be able to evaluate the effectiveness of our strategy. When we sent out the survey, I wanted to share that we did have a pretty good distribution across the board from pre-K through 12. Those that we did have responses from, 70% of them were current families. 10% were community members and former JCS families, and 20% were JCS staff. We asked a number of questions. We asked a total of 18 questions, though some of them were conditional, so not everybody answered all of them. The one that we really wanted to focus on at the start was, how do people want to be contacted if it's not an emergency? If we have an emergency, we would, of course, use every tool in our arsenal: social media, texting, email, phone calls. But if it's not an emergency, how do you want us to reach you? Honestly, results surprised me. I don't want any more text messages, but our families do, so I would have definitely gotten that one wrong. People want text messages, then email, automated phone call, the app, and then printed materials. Right now is how they prefer to be contacted. Text messaging is in first place by a lot. You can see it was a ranked choice, and so that was the number one option, and then we move into email. So that is something that we have opened up a little bit more this year as we've met with principals at the start of the year to allow them to have more ability to text, to let them have some opportunity to be able to reach with their communities directly. We asked for the overall quality of communication at several levels, so how they felt the quality of communication was from their teachers, their school, in the district. You can see we're all holding at about a 3. Teachers do rate the best, which was not surprising. And if you see, they actually have more 4- and 5-star ratings than the other groups. So that means we do have a pretty even distribution, but we do have a lot of teachers communicating really well with our families. At the school level, it does tend more towards that 3-4, and at the district level as well, we do not have nearly as many 5-star rating communications. So we are continuing to work on that. We do want to see those numbers continue to improve, and we do want to see more people moving to that 4. Our hope would be that we could move these all up by 0.25. At the end of the year, we try to set really realistic goals, and every year if we can do just a little bit. One of the other pieces of information we wanted to know is where are they looking at the information? 88% of them are looking at their cell phones. That's in line with national statistics from Statista on how people are accessing the internet. This means that when we are doing things, we need to ensure they are mobile responsive. The app, our website, all of those pieces have to be able to be used on a phone. It means that if you send a picture or a PDF, somebody's looking at it on their phone, they might be trying to zoom around to see different bits of information. So that lets us know we need to continue to work to build things natively into the platforms. This last slide, I will make a note, and this slide is missing in your packet. I had them in the packet wrong, and so was not able to get them printed, but we will get them shared. One of the last questions we asked is, what is your primary use of the school and district website? Over and over, 42% of people answered calendar in some form. So moving forward, what that looks like is we've worked with principals to make the calendar on the website easier for them to navigate. We've created, it's an Outlook calendar now that syncs to the website. So as they're in there adding other events to their calendar, they simply just add it to a different calendar within their Outlook. They don't have to leave their email where maybe they're getting the information about the events, and they can put it directly on their school website. It's an automatic sync. It syncs within 20 minutes, whether they add or remove an event. Next, I want to talk about some of the social media pieces that we have done. We turned on Facebook commenting with moderation rules on May 16th. We did run those through legal to ensure we were meeting all compliance. Your Facebook is an extension of your school building. That means you can't hide comments, you can't delete comments unless they're threatening or they specifically identify a student. There are very specific rules. So the communications team works very hard to make sure we read all comments, because you do have to make mandated reports off of social media comments as well. It's not like a general business where you can just turn on commenting, and if people say crazy things, they say crazy things. We are obligated to address comments that raise to a level of concern. In that time, we pulled the data from May 16th, 2024 to August 10th, 2024, and we looked at that data directly compared to the same time period last year when we did not have comments on. You can see there's an 85% increase in our Facebook reach, an 89% increase in our visits to our Facebook page, and about an 18% increase in our Facebook followers. We attribute that to turning on comments to increase that engagement. More people can see it, are engaging, sharing, tagging other people. We also have really worked to post consistently. So we are posting 3 to 5 times per week at minimum, even during the summer. During the school year, we may post 10 times a week by the time we account for things happening in all of our schools, recognition of students, recognition of staff, professional development opportunities. We are sharing information about schools, transportation, our student recognitions, the staff recognitions, media spotlights are all being shared to our social media pages. We have also added Instagram. As of July 1st, we've started posting to our Instagram. We've made 26 posts. We did our first reel last week. It was actually our new teacher orientation. We kind of got on a Reels TikTok trend with sunglasses and flashing through teachers. You can see about 75 of our new teachers, and I think it's like 25 seconds. They move quickly, but something we wanted to be able to continue to reach into. Our hope for this channel is to be able to use it for recruitment, to reach new teachers fresh out of college who are looking for where they want to go. So we will see a lot of professional development there. Right now, that is just kind of a duplication of our Facebook feed as we continue to build up our capacity in this area, and then you'll start to see it target more towards recruitment. I would say it's in the fall as we start to attend more of those job fairs. We've made some changes to the JCS website. Towards the end of July, we updated our homepage. We used data from our community survey. We also used website best practices as far as your practices are 3 clicks to information. You want to be able to find anything on a website within 3 clicks if it's available. That's really important when we're building our websites. We've featured spotlights on the homepage now. Right now you can see our service person of the year, our teacher of the year, a student who's won an art contest. We have very vibrant pictures of students in the background of the website to continue to keep the focus where it should be on our kids. You can see our calendar has been updated. And then there is also now on each page, it's currently on the left, it will move to the right just because of how it lays out on mobile. If it's on the left side of navigation, it'll be at the top. If we move it to the right, it'll be at the bottom. Previously on our website, you couldn't navigate between pages. So if I went to the human resources or careers section, I was kind of stuck on the page I went to. I couldn't go back and look at benefits or salary scales or any of the other things available there, finance forms, things like that. So this allows people to be able to navigate a little easier within our website and brings us more in line with industry standard. We continue to take feedback on our website and continue to work. We will continue to reduce the number of pages and streamline where we're able to make sure all of the information is in one place for families as opposed to having to click on multiple pages. The next big initiative we have going on right now is Rooms. Rooms is a unified two-way communication platform. We are working on onboarding pre-K through 12 in addition to athletics, extracurriculars, clubs, LSICs, anything that you would do for your student's school or your student is participating in, we are trying to move into the Rooms app. We hear from a lot of parents that there are a variety of apps available, right? We have Canvas, and then I might have the band app for soccer, and then the Hey Play Sports app for a different sport. And so we want to try to reduce the amount of apps for parents and put everything in one place for all of their kids. This is one app for everything in Jefferson County schools, and you actually access the Rooms or parent two-way communication piece inside of the JCSWV app. We already have 8,600 downloads of that app, which means we're pretty far along in getting people on board. We are actively in the implementation process, so that means we have met with all the building principals to make sure we set up a system that works within their building. While there are standards of use across the district, each principal has a different community and might have slightly different needs. And what you need in kindergarten is different than what you need in 6th, 7th, or 12th grade. We have done in-person training and building this week for teachers. We ran 11 of those trainings in person today. Myself and Aptity sent a representative to do those. So I did 6 and she did 5. We'll host virtual trainings tomorrow for teachers that are optional. Then we will provide recordings of those trainings and have recorded video trainings, and then we hit 5 more schools on Wednesday and Thursday. There are printable training documents. You can see an example of that in your PowerPoint that we provided to all teachers as we train them, so they have a quick reference resource on how to use the platform. We will be sharing with all families on Friday. So Friday, everybody will get a newsletter with information, how to use the platform, what it looks like, how to download it. And we're pushing that out at the district level so that we can get as many parents into the system before school starts as we possibly can. We will support parents with an online support form as needed. There will be a web page of resources. They will also have resources available that are downloadable and printable. We have a video that walks them through step by step from the moment they get an email to downloading the app to then being able to sign up for the notification specific to their student. This is a little bit of what that would look like from inside. This is my training account. So on the left-hand side, you can see a stream. That is all of the announcements a teacher would make at the top. In the middle, you can see there's a circle. Mine's pink. That is where all of your students would be listed. So if you have 4 students, you can click through all of your students and see all of their classes and activities in one place. You can directly message your student's teacher. All of the principals have made school-wide rooms, so you can reach out to your principals directly as well. The school nurses can share information that's important as it becomes available, counselors on scheduling, and they can also target by grade level. On the right, you can see messages in there. Just very easily go back and forth like you would in any other messaging app. Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, many of us are already very familiar with these kinds of platforms. Want to cover quickly ongoing initiatives. We continue to work with HR on recruitment. One of our big pushes continues to be data. So this year, we're evaluating how many people we get to different job fairs, how many applications we get from those, maybe where in the pipeline we may be losing people. We are continuing to look at our content for our social media, for our website, meeting with teachers, meeting with staff. We're even potentially looking at getting from one of our business classes an intern within the communications department from one of our high schools to help us figure out how to reach students better. Something we're very excited about if we can make happen. Each school will get a refreshed website as well. That will start in October to make sure that their websites kind of mirror the best practices that we found and that we know of on our home site. In the interim, because we know calendars are so important, they have already been equipped with the new Outlook calendars to be able to ensure their information gets updated in a timely manner. Principals also have more access to their staff directories on their website to be able to update all of their staff to make sure that's accurate as well. Finally, recognitions. You all see me very frequently for these. We are continuing to streamline for student recognitions to make sure that we're able to recognize all of our students in a timely manner. And we, with HR, have the addition of staff recognitions where we will be presenting an all-star service person and an all-star professional staff from each school at the board meetings throughout the year to highlight some of the work our staff is doing. That's all I have. Any questions?
I do. Sorry. Apologize. Thank you very much for that. So I had a couple of questions. You mentioned that this is done all over the country, the feedback surveys.
Yeah.
So have you guys been able to compare our practices and our results against other counties' practices and results? You know, maybe do something super impactful?
So I do see some of those results when we go to the conferences with other public relations officials. I actually just this week through one of those groups I'm in have connected with the Ohio County and West Virginia public relations officer and director of communications to see what their best practices are as well. So as much as we can, we try to network and ask. There is not a standard survey. Well, there is, but you have to pay a lot of money for it from the National School Public Relations Association. And they don't share out their results as far as what the benchmarking is.
Okay, you just pump them for information, so we get all the goods. Okay?
I will keep trying.
All right, and then I may have missed this, but when you were talking about rooms, will it include grades like Canvas did?
No, so Rooms is our communication platform. We are not getting rid of Canvas. Canvas is learning and learning management. So when we communicate to families, we really want to make clear your grades are still in Canvas, your classwork assignments, your students' learning happens in Canvas, not at the K-2 level, but we are just communicating. We are taking the communication piece. So any materials that's uploaded into Rooms is primarily for parents to enable them to continue to help their students progress.
My kids will be so happy their grades are still available to me.
So I just have a quick question. So if this essentially will, number one, replace Remind app, correct?
Yes, we are not using Remind as a district any longer.
Okay, and then also, when we talk about Band app, I know like swim uses Band app, track uses Band app, and a lot of times the parents or a president is in charge of trying to monitor and manage that for the coach and then sending those things out. Is that something where Rooms will now be available, and will they have an opportunity to do that, or is it then strictly coach-based, or how does that work?
So to get into the Rooms app, our preference is that you're one of our coaches, right? If you have access directly to our students, you should be a coach. We are working with our athletic directors, the president of the Boosters Associations, to make sure that we make these functional for our athletics teams and that they really work to meet the need. We've been working to update all the rosters. We've worked with Apogee very closely, and they've committed to management of our rosters and things. So that piece is more taken care of, finding the kids, knowing the kids are in there. But the coaches are ultimately responsible for the information that's being shared with their teams.
But if it's the boosters, it's parents, so it would still be okay if the booster president shared it?
Full transparency, working on that. My dad's the president of the football boosters at Jefferson High School, and we're in a bit of a disagreement.
Okay.
So ideally, it would be the coaches. I don't believe it is our position or our place to share other parents' information with parents. If they choose to do that individually via text message, but I do not believe that we should be in the position of sharing people's personal information.
Gotcha, that's where the crux is. Okay.
I think also we have, as far as like the Band app, I know, will be in a coaches or in a parent meeting. And it's, if you know of a parent or a student and they request to be on this, please send them the link so that they can get on that. So it's parents helping other parents to know what to do, because a coach isn't going to respond as well. They're busy, they're coaching. So that's where you end up having that interim person who tries to help manage that, whether it's managing uniform returns, managing uniform handouts, all the different things. I think this is probably more of an issue at the high school level than any of the other levels, but I think it would come up some in the middle. But yeah, so I do think that in order to get full implementation, you've got to find a way to find some kind of a common ground, or whether we vet anybody who is able to use that, we put them through background checks, whatever the case may be, there needs to be some SOP guidelines written out specifically that can be handed out. If you violate the guidelines, you're out. You know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. But I think to be able to kind of give that hard line that it's either the coach or it's no one, then we're going to go back to, now we'll get a 0 in communication, right? Not a 3. Because
Right.
all of those athletic parents are going to be like, you know, you stink, you stink, you stink, you don't communicate anything with me, I can't get any information. All the things that we've been trying to avoid. So I like this idea. I think it has to be standardized because you're right, there's way too many, and it's way too difficult to share information. The standardized calendar for the entire county, great idea. You can see what events are at every school. I think that'd be wonderful. But yeah, to be able to find some way, I don't know what the answer is with that, but we've got to, I think, find a way to.
I can work with human resources and technology to see kind of what those options might look like, or where we may be able to add in a booster here or there to manage some of those pieces. We can work through what that might look like. As we get through the season, I think we'll see more of what best practices look like and what the need is as far as what their expectation is. And so absolutely, we'll continue to grow and be flexible in that area.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Great. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Next, we have the Deputy Superintendent of Instructional Support.
While he's on his way up, I would like to formally introduce Mr. Stevens, who has assumed the position with us as Deputy Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. He's been on the job about 3 weeks now, I think, and has acclimated extremely well. We did our tour. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, our Jumpstart initiative today, but Mr. Stevens was fully engaged in that, and I think he had a good time Jefferson County style, so I'll turn it over to him.
Well, we had to represent the Mountaineers because we had a Hokie on the trip with us most of the time, so, you know, had to represent louder than the Virginia Tech fans, which we were successful at. What a great day it was today. Superintendent Bishop, members of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. As he mentioned, my name is Ron Stevens. I'm new to Jefferson County just in the past few weeks. I appreciate being open with welcome arms. We've been at every school and almost every official office building for Jefferson County schools. And it is wonderful to be a part of Jefferson County's culture and curriculum. So I'm excited about being the Deputy Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction here. Tonight, the Curriculum and Instruction is going to be talking to you about our pre-K program, Universal Pre-K, giving you an update on that. And with me this evening is Mary Lind. Mary Lind is the coordinator of Pre-K to 2, working in Curriculum and Instruction, and she is prepared to talk to you about our Pre-K program.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everybody, and welcome, Ms. Twyford, to your first 24-25 school year as a board member. It's very exciting. As Mr. Stevens said, I'm here to talk about pre-K. So I'm going to be discussing just a general overview of pre-K, how we make up our classroom, some logistics, as well as Policy 2525, which is what guides the pre-K program. So, Mr. Bailey, if you could please put on my presentation. And I'm going to attempt to use this ClickPad for the first time tonight. Okay, so in Jefferson County, we have 17 universal pre-K classrooms. And out of those 17 classrooms, we have 7 collaborative partnerships. 6 are partners with Head Start programming, and 1 is a partnership with Shepherdstown Daycare. At the last count, this was a few days ago, we have 196 pre-K students. Out of those 196 students, 67 are what's considered Head Start eligible. That means that they are low income or from a disadvantaged background. Out of the 196 students, we have 78 students with IEPs. And as you said, I think it was Ms. Loring who was speaking earlier, our students with IEP, the number just keeps increasing. And as you can see, it's even broken down further into the types of IEPs that we have in pre-K. So I wasn't planning on talking about this, but any child with an IEP that's even 3 is eligible for pre-K. So when we begin the process for the year, we have a universal registration process, and this is dictated by Policy 2525, that we have an agreed system of how we register kids in pre-K. So all of our applications are given to the Head Start Central Office, which is adjacent to the T.A. Lowry Elementary School. So all applications are delivered to that location. Then a committee gets together and we go through those applications and we take into consideration things like where the family wants those children placed. That has to be something that we offer families. They get to put a list of preference of locations. So we take into consideration before and after care as well as other things that the family may need, such as transportation. So this is a quick infographic just so you guys can get kind of a general understanding of how the universal pre-K classrooms look in Jefferson County. So these are the schools where we currently have pre-K classrooms. The green square represents those partnership classrooms with Head Start. Those are inside of our Jefferson County schools, except for the 3 at T.A. Lowry. They are in a Head Start building that's adjacent to T.A. Lowry. And then we have the classroom at Shepherdstown Daycare. As I said before, these are all considered universal pre-K classrooms. Then you can also see that we have self-contained classrooms at a self-contained classroom at North Jefferson, and any classroom that has the SPED with C means that those classrooms have a certified special ed teacher in that classroom. In the next slide, you're going to see even more of a breakdown with the total enrollment at the top as well as the number of students with IEP at the bottom. I know this is a lot of information. I just wanted to give you guys an understanding of how robust the program actually is. So you can see all of our classrooms that are white are considered just the Jefferson County classrooms, and we are at full capacity. And the green classrooms, again, are the partnerships with Head Start. And because they are kind of an entity unto themselves, they make up what number of students they can accept in their classroom. So now for the fun stuff. This is just a quick overview of some of the things that we do in pre-K. Again, guided by Policy 2525. So all of our classrooms and our teachers, it's very evident that we are very developmentally appropriate in our classrooms. Students are encouraged to explore, and it's very inquiry-based, and there's lots of learning centers in our classrooms in pre-K. And this is just a fun pictures of kids measuring me with pine cones. So they were doing non-standard measurement. In Policy 2525, we also need to follow the curriculum. That's the adopted curriculum that also is developmentally appropriate. And we have what's called the creative curriculum in West Virginia. These are some wonderful pictures from the pre-K at Blue Ridge last year. They were doing the photography study. So creative curriculum is made up of different studies that the teachers can choose to do based on the students' interests in the classrooms. So the students were showing interest in photographs. And one of the ECATs, which is the early childhood classroom assistant teacher, is a photographer and brought in lots of different things for the students to manipulate. And I was just so enamored with how engaged the students were. But there's other topics such as balls and ramps and families and animals, etc. It's required that students have 1 hour of outdoor play and movement. And in our Jefferson County pre-K classrooms, we honor the child. We honor the children's background. We honor the differences that are coming in with those children, the relationships that those children have with one another, with their families. And here are two of our pre-K teachers just participating in some professional development. So we have several days throughout the year for our pre-K teachers to be given professional development. It's not always art-based. I just had those two pictures. And something we're very excited for this year is pre-K teachers are going to be offering 3 family engagement evenings. The past several years since COVID, we've been hosting the family engagement series on Zoom or Teams, and the participation has dwindled. Obviously, Zoom and Teams has lost its charm. So we are having the teachers do in-person family engagement evenings this year, and the sole purpose is being to develop and strengthen the relationships with the families, as well as offer some parent engagement on things that they can do with their kids at home. And so these are pictures of our family engagement. We finished up last year with an in-person at Jim Barnett Park, and we brought a school bus because another part of 2525 is helping the students transition to kindergarten. So we invited kindergarten teachers for them to meet, and we had a school bus for the kids to get on. And the picture of Miss Pennell in the middle, that's a former student that used to ride her bus, and now she was a parent that brought her kid, and that was a really cool moment. And as you can see, that's a Teams picture from the past year as well. So we had a state review this year, and that went really well. 28 of the 32 indicators were marked evident. And according to the Early Learning Reporting System, which is our mandated reporting system to collect data for our kids, you can see the growth in oral language from 2021 to 2024, as well as in self-regulation. I just wanted to put some positives in the slideshow. And again, this is a quick graph to show the needs of the students and how they're increasing. In 2021, we had 48 students with IEPs, and last year we ended with 85 students with IEPs in our classrooms. So what's next? We have several exciting things coming down the pike. We are training every teacher and 1 ECAT in each classroom in early childhood positive behavior system. This is a program that was born at Marshall University with the Autism Training Center and the West Virginia Department of Education. So because we have more needs and more students with different abilities coming in, we want to really equip our teachers to be able to handle all the different challenges that they may have in their classroom. So they're being trained in that this year. We are looking to develop a new partnership with another collaborative partner so we can offer more before and after care. This is a very challenging initiative. 3 parent engagement sessions, and we're also going to be implementing a book study with our teachers and ECATs for some embedded PD this year. And that concludes my presentation, and I am open for questions.
I have 3 questions.
Sure.
how do students qualify for Head Start? They have to be 4 years old by,
So in order to qualify for Head Start, so if you are a 4-year-old without an IEP, you have to be 4 by July 1. Now, during the school year, if they do not meet their quota, they can bring in 3-year-olds. But that's just Head Start, not universal pre-K. It can get really complicated.
is that a state rule?
So that's a Head Start rule.
And that's by the state. They dictate that July 1st.
Oh, yes, July 1, yes.
And the universal pre-K, then, is that the same? You do the Head Start, and the only addition is if they have an IEP, they can come in at 3?
Yes, if you are a 3-year-old with an IEP, you may enroll in pre-K.
3 by July 1st?
Yes, as soon as they turn 3, actually. So that's one of the challenges with our classrooms is that it'll be the middle of the year, and if a child turns 3, they may enroll in pre-K.
My other question is, it says 196 students, 67 Head Start eligible, 78 students with IEP. The rest are just because there are 4?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last question is, you have this growth according to ELRS. What is ELRS? And
So-
how are students that young measured?
That's a great question. So ELRS is our early learning reporting system that has several indicators from social and emotional growth to gross motor, some academics as well. And what the teachers do is when those kids first come in, they use formative assessment, which could be a checklist, taking notes, observations of where those kids fall on the scale, 1, 3, or 5. And so it's how the student comes into the classroom, like immediately. And then throughout the year, they're measured again.
So these teachers, they evaluate themselves. There's no third party that comes in and monitors growth.
No, I mean, they have support from special ed, so especially the students that have some different abilities. Special ed will come in and help the teacher with assessing the students, but it's the teacher's responsibility to complete the ELRS.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a couple questions. The same curriculum, different curriculum, what are we using for the pre-Ks that are, some are Head Start, some are pre-K for us, some are Jefferson daycare? So does everyone use the same curriculum?
Yes, and when I began 4 years ago, that was one of my big things, was to make sure that every classroom had a complete set of creative curriculum. So Shepherdstown Daycare, Head Start, they all follow the creative curriculum.
Okay, and then how do we do the testing on that? Like, what are we using to be able to evaluate where they stand? I mean, they come out of maybe birth to 3, they have these specific deficits, and then, I mean, we're using, what are we using to measure academically how they're progressing?
So we give the Brigance test. That's something that we give during the summer. And if the kids are not able to be assessed during the summer, we give that as soon as the kids come in. So we use the Brigance, and we also have the ELRS as our data collection.
Okay, and the kids, thanks. And the kids that are not able to come in during the summer, how do we do that for them?
The teachers take the time in the beginning of the school year to assess them.
Okay, so then it would be based on last year's data this year and kind of see where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then how many would you say, do we have any numbers anyway, are eligible? You know how we have the survey we send out to all students and it asks to put your siblings, you know, or list the other family members in the home. Do we collect any data that says, you know, we can see from this survey that we send to all students, we have, say, 50 kids that would qualify in this range that are siblings of these, and we know that we're entering this many into the program. I mean, are we tracking like how many kids we're actually maybe missing that are eligible but that are not in the program?
So that was part of the state review. They took our data to tell us how many kids have been eligible for pre-K that have not been attending. And we don't have a very good rate. We need to improve on that. And I never thought about tracking future students coming in. Carol Whittington and I are actually creating a survey that's going to go to all kindergarten families this fall that's going to ask about their pre-K experience or lack of, and why they did or did not attend pre-K, or why they did or did not attend a private pre-K, so that we can start trying to ascertain the need in Jefferson County, whether it's because of our location and families commute to the city, or if it's transportation, or they're just more interested in a private or homeschool environment.
Do we get any information on that based on like Jefferson, Berkeley, Winchester, Inova, like any birthing records for people who have our address, even just a number, not even maybe a name, but any kind of data? Do they ever change? Do they ever send any kind of data records that way, or are they accessible at all? Do you know?
I'm not certain. I don't know about data from other states, but I'm sure if I would, the state always gives us data like that at our state meetings. So I'm sure if I wanted to find out what the percentage of students that were eligible for pre-K that actually attended, I'm sure I could find out.
Okay. And then the last thing I had is, let's see, do we know how many students that we've possibly had to turn away because we don't have space for them over the last 3 years, or are we keeping any trend data on that to know if we need another program?
Mm-hmm. So we do not turn down families. So universal pre-K means that everyone has access to pre-K. So we have to offer a spot to families. So if a family does not enroll in our program, it's because they're not, the placement or the school was maybe not their first choice, so they decided not to send their child, or for other reasons like that. But we always offer a space to a family that sends us an application.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be helpful too for us to be able to even track, no matter who applies, and then start to track the data as to why. Because it could be even a transportation where we find that, you know, it's something that it would be worth the investment, or we might be able to find some grant money to provide transportation for students, even for pre-K. My son, you know, rode a bus. He used to call it the little Twinkie bus because that was what he felt
Oh,
years ago. But anyway, I know it was a big deal for me as a parent. I don't know that I could have sent
right.
kids in the house and being small and trying to get them out the door. So just anything that we can start to collect to find out how many students we're actually missing and what our actual needs are, knowing that if we are using Jefferson Daycare, at this point, we definitely still have a need for expansion within our own.
Absolutely. And you reminded me of something. So Head Start allots us 30 spaces within their Head Start eligible classrooms. So if we have families that do need transportation and they mark that on their application, we take note of that, and we place those families in Head Start classrooms because they do offer transportation. So that's the goal of the committee, is to look at those needs of the families and really try to meet their needs, so families don't have to say, well, I guess I can't attend. We do try hard to help all of our families.
I think it would be good too to see if we know we have birth to 3 and we have X number of students in birth to 3, and then seeing what the turnover rate is with that. I know some parents decide not to do preschool if they've kind of graduated out of birth to 3, but then we end up seeing them back in kindergarten. If they decide not to do universal pre-K, we still have needs. We haven't addressed them in 2 years, and then we have even further declines. So I think it would also be good to see what kind of numbers we're seeing with that, how many kids are turning that down. We're in birth to 3, and if there's any kind of a difference between the students that stay in the program and come forward, and then or choose to leave the program and come back, are they kind of reoccurring needs, or how we can maybe address those? I mean, I'm like early intervention.
Yeah, I agree.
Dump the money there. to make any kind of difference long-term, but, okay.
Well, I have to give a shout out to Birth to Three because they are true advocates for their families. And I actually took out some of the data because I didn't, it was just too many numbers of how many kids are actually coming down the pipeline that are going to be eligible to come into pre-K this year. There's like, I think 40-some on the list. So some of those families will take advantage of being able to come into pre-K and some won't.
Well, and I think even if we find that we have an issue with that and some don't, maybe we provide them a 2-day option. They might take advantage of that where they don't want a 5-day option.
Right, we do that. Mm-hmm.
Wednesday and then a Tuesday, Thursday, and we could split that group and
Right.
need something different, but, okay,
Right.
thank you.
Just a quick question concerning the universal pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
So you said we don't turn anyone away.
No,
correct?
no, it's policy.
So it doesn't seem like we have universal pre-K in each school, so the classrooms have to be pretty crowded.
Actually,
How many children
they are
in a
crowded.
classroom?
So it all depends on square footage. Most of our classrooms in our schools, we're allowed up to 20, which is the max per state guidelines. I think it should be less than that, but that'll be another board meeting. So right now, all of our classrooms are maxed out at 20, except for the classroom at North Jefferson. Her classroom square footage is smaller, so she's only allowed to have 18 students. And like I said, Head Start classrooms, they can cap their classrooms as they see fit.
Okay, so we are at a cap, so we must cut it off someplace.
We don't cut it off, we'll just have to open a classroom.
Oh, okay, so you would open up another preschool classroom, or even at one of the schools who don't
Yes.
house preschool, they may have to house it.
That's coming up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We got Paige Jackson, I think, was a couple years back. We didn't have the space, we had to open up a class.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you. I have 3 kids who went through universal pre-K, and it was fantastic.
Woot woot. All right. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next up we have new business discussion and action on approval of the McCormick Grant Committee recommendations for the 24-25 school year. Good evening.
Good evening. So I'm here we met as a committee, the McCormick Grant Committee at Jefferson High School. We met on July 29th to vet the grants. And it's later because we didn't get the money in time, or the amount of money, we didn't know how much we had. And I thought there's a lot of new people that have joined in here. Maybe you don't understand the McCormick grant process, but about 30 years ago, Mr. McCormick, Robert W. McCormick, heir to the McCormick Spices, he was a farmer in this county, and he asked the principal at Jefferson High School, could he walk in the hallway after school for health reasons. He and his friend, and the principal said, yeah, sure. And so he and Mr. Hawkinsmith walked up and down the hallway at Jefferson for several years, I guess. I would see them, but I can't account for how long it was. Anyway, Mr. and Mrs. McCormick had no children, so they left a lot of money to Jefferson County and different entities, and 2 particular sizable amounts came to Jefferson County schools. One for scholarships, which we have nothing to do with on our end, so I don't know anything about that. And then this money was given to Jefferson County schools to be used at Jefferson High School. The board president at the time, Mr. Daugherty, and the person in charge of curriculum instruction, Doug Perks, decided I guess it was a whole committee decision and everything, but they came up with a grant process so that the staff could write grants, and that's how it was all born. At the time, it was in a trust, and the Bank of Charlestown handles it all, and there are quite the parameters that go with it. But it was in account that went up and down with the interest rates. And then several years ago, they put it in a foundation, I believe, so that the money is pretty equitable over the years. And in the past few years, it's been 150 grand, which is what it was this time as well. The caveats are that it must support and not supplant what the Board of Education pays for, no athletics, no bricks and mortar, must have measurable academic goals and objectives, and must promote, the biggest one is, it must promote the education of Jefferson High School students. And somebody said, well, why just Jefferson High School? Well, because when he walked into school, there was only Jefferson High School. And when they reviewed it all, when the schools split, that's how it came out, that the scholarships would be for everybody, but the grant money, or this part, would just be for Jefferson High School. Sorry, but I have anything to do with that. So, we put together, our committee is made up of a board member, a treasurer, somebody from finance to help us with that end of things, the principal of the school, the faculty senate president, 3 teachers, someone from curriculum and instruction, which is Ms. Marcus now, and me. And the reason that I'm still on it, even though I'm retired, is because I was on the very first committee when it started, and I've been on it all the way through. And there was a little period of time when we went through, 4 principals in 4 years, and it was just to try to keep the continuity of this whole thing. So that's why I'm still on it. We also have a secretary treasurer, and she handles all of the purchase orders and all of that stuff, so it's all done right. We also have a grant application, and the criteria, again, it must promote education. It must include goals and objectives that align with county and state goals that are measurable. It must be submitted by the due date. This year is May 15th. It must include correspondence with their C&I representative. So if they're technology, it would have to go through the person in charge of CTE. If they are CTE teachers, if it's special ed teachers, it would have to go through the special ed department here who's in charge of it. And the rest of it would go through Ms. Marcus. They have to make sure that there's no money available. And that came from actually a recommendation from someone a few years ago who was the C&I representative, because she said, well, I didn't get asked if there was any money for that. So that's why that was put in there. We also put in last year principal approval because there have been some questions about that. And then an itemized listing. It can't just be miscellaneous. It has to be within reason. We don't need it down to the, cord and all of that. So, that being said, that's where we are, how we got here. Thank you, Mr. McCormick. So we had $150,000 this year, and we had an end-of-year balance of $9,984.50, which brought us to $984.50. Now, we always keep a $4,000 cushion just because you never know. We also minus $1,800 for administration fees because our treasurer and secretary has to do this after school hours because she's employed here at Washington, so it shouldn't be done during school hours. And also, when this committee first formed, it was decided that 15% of each year's allotment would go to the library at the time, Media Center now. So if you subtract all of that, it left us with $139,184.50 to grant. We had $149,132.80 requested. To make a long story short, I know you're saying thank you. Number 5 on my chart there, Ms. Joswick's grant, we're not recommending that. And why is because it didn't meet the parameters of the process. She submitted the grant on time, and it's for an environmental earth science class where they do stuff with water in the Chesapeake and the Potomac, which, you know, is great. It's aquatic assessment. But she didn't have any correspondence with C&I to see if there was money available. She also did not submit an evaluation. That's another component. Everyone must submit an evaluation to get another grant to make sure that they have met their goals and how. So there has to be an evaluation. I contacted her when I was going through the grants and asked her if she had, maybe I missed it somewhere along the line, and she said no, and asked if she could and would still be considered. And I told her that she could, but it was a committee decision. And we've had this several times where things aren't coming in on time or fulfilled, and we just don't want to get into that play. So we are not recommending that that grant is approved for those reasons. All the rest then, with the exception of the Digital Theater Plus from Megan Russell, it was a 1 year or 2 year, we just did the 1 year. So if we approve or recommend all the rest of them for approval, that came out to $139,184.50. It's left over $62.97, so there will be no second round of grants. So again, we got Krista Crawford for dance class. One other specification that was put in this year, that we're recommending that these are approved with the stipulation choreography, music, artwork, costumes, set design, props, etc. are approved by the principal, because evidently there's been some concerns and questions. So she asked if she approves them ahead of time, but she doesn't always get to see what they're going to wear or what they're going to use and that kind of stuff. So that was for dance class. The second one for Ms. Crawford was $8,500 for the charisma class or their team. Then Larissa Elliott with the color guard, $16,300, and again, the same stipulation. Jennifer Glimpf, $2,100 for an Appalachian storyteller, Adam Booth, to do workshops at Jefferson. Mr. Lynch, $3,000 for drill design for marching band field show. $40,149.58 for drumline instruments, etc. And there was an itemized list within the grant. And $13,000, $243.89 for sound system for band performances when they are competing. Evidently, that's a big thing, and it would help them in their adjudication, I suppose. Barbara Millison, $22,000 for calculators for the math department. Hannah Myers, $20,000 for show choir, choreography, and costumes, etc. And again, approved with the stipulation. Megan Russell, the Digital Theater Plus software for $4,017.35, a 1 year subscription. And $2,310 for Major Sudam for Raider Guard equipment, etc. And there we go.
Thank you very much, Ms. Swartz. We appreciate all the effort you and the committee put into this every year. Is there a motion to go ahead and approve the committee's recommendations for the McCormick grant for a total of $139,121.57?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Twyford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Any discussion or questions?
I do have a question. You said that the grant money could not be used for sports. Is that something that Mr. McCormick left, or is that something that we made up as we went along?
It came from what the Bank of Charlestown gave us. I have not seen the will, but evidently he was very specific as to how he wanted his money used, and that was evidently one of the things.
Okay, thank you.
I will say, we have had a question that I don't know how to answer, so we'll probably have to go back to the Bank of Charlestown since some athletics can be counted as a PE credit. But I don't know. They asked me about that, and I said, I don't know, but I would, if it came to that point, I would check into it.
And that is true, because we do have other, like dance, band, different things. So what you said is true, and that's what I was thinking about. That some of the, like, weight training, different classes are PE.
Well, I will say that some of the weight equipment that's there, which has been there for a while, was purchased with McCormick money at one time for the weight training class, and subsequently, sports got to use it, so, you know. But, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it needs to be replaced, but nobody put in a grant, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the McCormick Grant Committee recommendations for the 24-25 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next, we have discussion action on acceptable use policies.
Yes, you have before you this evening two policies, 7540.03 and .04. The staff acceptable use policy as well as the student acceptable use policy. These two policies are in the Neola format, although they mirror what is in what I'll refer to as the old policy manual. So when Mr. Merzouk, our Director of Technology, brought his concern and his issue to our leadership team meeting a couple of weeks ago, the decision was made at that time. I thought it would make sense to just work toward the Neola policy adoption instead of adopting revision to the old policy. The primary change, though, in both policies is in the green on your copy, the 10DLC policy, privacy policy, and the data sharing with third-party applications. In order for us to, and this primarily is with JVA, in order for us to have communication, we need this policy in place for the text messaging and other communication that needs to happen. So in order to move forward, we need to be able to have that policy in place. Mr. Merzouk is here if anybody has specific questions. The data sharing with the third-party applications, we do use a number of applications, Microsoft, Google Drive, that have the ability to share data, and we have not yet made folks aware that those policy or that those applications could potentially share data with third-party groups or third-party applications. And this is our notification that occurs. Although we would like to limit the access to all those third-party applications, it's not reasonable in our environment if we expect students to use Microsoft and Google Drive and other educational resources that we have available to them.
So are you asking us to vote to put these out for public review?
Yes, that would be great if we could get agreement tonight and a vote for approval so that we can move forward.
Okay. Is there a motion to go ahead and put policy number 7540.04 and 7540.03 out for public review?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of putting policy 7540.04 and 7540.03 out for public comment, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, thank you. Next, we have discussion and action on agreement with Jefferson County Parks and Recreation to build a new park in Shepherdstown.
Good evening. This evening, I come before the board to ask you to approve a Jefferson County Parks and Recreation Commission ground lease. This ground lease is for a portion of our new Shepherdstown Elementary property. It is a 30-year lease for 38.1389 acres located on that property. And since we have developed site maps and plans for that property, this has always been a planned area for the Parks and Rec to be able to have a space to create the first public property in public park in Shepherdstown. So I will await your motion and then take any questions you might have.
right, is there a motion on the agreement with Jefferson County Parks and Recreation to build a new park in Shepherdstown? Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Twyford. All right, any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have some. I feel like it would be helpful to have had a presentation about the background of this, because this was established before several of us were on the board. So I have a lot of questions. I understand that there's going to be a sensory playground. Is that correct? Something to that effect?
And we do have two guests with us this evening, Ms.
We do.
Myers and Mr. Kling. If one of you wouldn't mind coming up, if you have just,
Yeah, Mrs. Myers is the director, Jennifer Myers, of the Parks and Rec, so she can answer any questions specific to what's going to go in the park.
and Mrs. Myers, I know we've been working on this for what seems like years and years and years, and it's finally coming to fruition. So if you wouldn't mind just in just a really quick synopsis, giving a description of what this park would look like.
Sure. Now, at this point, everything is conceptual, so no official drawings or site plans or anything have been developed. But many of the ideas, I think the main idea that came out several years ago when we started this conversation is that I think the schools as well as Parks and Rec would love for there to be a destination playground in Jefferson County, a playground that everyone can use, that's open to all ages, abilities, and it seemed like the Shepherdstown property would be a great site to make something like that happen. So, the goal would be that we have a lot of, I believe it was Mr. Wink at the time, sent us a lot of information. He had met with several groups within the school system, and sent a list of ideas that parents would like to see, what education teachers in the county would like to see to build a playground like that. So that it's definitely part of the plan is to build a large sensory playground with a lot of different elements. Again, it has not been designed. So that playground, if something like that is to move forward, that would go out through a bid process. There would be public engagement to decide what that playground would look at before it's built. Other ideas that we have discussed in a lot of these meetings over the years is trail systems, possibly shared use facilities. If the schools need an additional soccer field to be built, maybe that's something that Parks and Rec would help with, and there would be soccer fields that could be shared use, parking areas. Recently, in discussions, pickleball courts came up as an option. So there's a lot of ideas that would need to be developed out through this to decide what that park would specifically look like. But this was kind of the first steps, getting the blessing of the school board to move forward with generating some of that information.
You said it seems like Shepherdstown would be a good place. There's a park in Shepherdstown. I'm just curious, was there any research done as to a good location? Do you have data? Because especially with the sensory playground, I would think that that would be in a place where there are a lot of children that could benefit from that. Right now, we have a large population at North Jefferson, and depending on what happens with that school, if these children are moved to Ranson, maybe that would be the better location. But I'm just curious how Shepherdstown, which is not accessible very easily by children on the mountain, or it's just wondering why that was chosen.
So destination playgrounds are typically playgrounds that people drive to. They're playgrounds that are set up. There's one in Frederick County. So it's something that's built for the community as a whole. I mean, anyone can come use it. It's just like with parks, you try to put them in areas of the county where, to have everyone to have access for it. But when we started all these discussions, the Shepherdstown property was the property the schools had just in the process of purchasing or just purchasing. And we were ready to make a commitment to build partnerships within the school systems, and that's why we started with Shepherdstown. Ideally, Parks and Rec would love to work with the schools going forward, and when you build a new school, we would love to look at building a park beside that school, which is how it is done in most municipalities and counties around our state, is how their Parks and Rec departments work within their school boards as well.
It's just so close to Sam Michael's Park, so it just, you would think that if you were going to add all these things, you would do it at Sam Michael's, or somewhere further away so that it's more accessible to more children or people. I guess it's for all ages, you're saying.
Well, yes, and I'll field that one. I think Parks and Rec has done a beautiful job in Jefferson County in spreading out their public parks, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for Shepherdstown to have not only the private park of Morgan Grove, but a public park as well. And to partner with the school system, I think that's a perfect blend and a perfect marriage of two entities working together for the good of Jefferson County children.
So if a child gets hurt, who's responsible? Does the school system pay the insurance on the property?
In the lease, the liability, in the lease, it spells out the liability. And while the Parks and Rec has the lease, they would assume liability as they assume in every other public park.
So they do all the upkeep.
Correct.
And I had asked Dr. Bishop, I don't know, a couple days ago, why 30 years? Because, in 10 years, we may decide we really need more land there. And we're locked into a 30-year agreement at $50 a year. What is the maximum or the lowest number of years you could agree to that would be beneficial?
In order for Mrs. Myers to apply for grants and to get grants to build the park, a 30-year lease is appropriate because she needs to demonstrate longevity, that the park's going to be there for a while. In our site plan, we have room for the elementary, for middle school, for an athletic field. We also have room for that park. It was built into the site plan when we stepped off with the architect. So essentially, this acreage and the acreage that she's being given, she'll have to develop as part of her grants. It's not really usable acreage for the school system.
Is there, it just doesn't sound like you really have any plans for it. It's just you're going to have this for $50 a year to do what you may decide you want to do, correct? Or is there, because you said you might be able to create X, Y, and Z. Are there any solid plans for it?
I feel Mrs. Myers is excellent about getting grants. That's demonstrated over and over again in the public parks we see throughout Jefferson County. So once she's able to apply for grants, what I hear her saying is, I want people's input as to what they want to see there. So much like processes we have, I think she will have a concept plan in our lease. That concept plan will come back to us so that we can take a look at it, work with her every step of the way to approve that that's what's going to go on the property. And I think together we can build something that will be great.
It's the way that it all appears is that the school system, through the levy, gives the money to Parks and Rec so that Parks and Rec can turn around and use at least part of that money to run a playground or park on the school system's property. Is that correct?
It is a partnership, and I have not seen Mrs. Myers' budget nor how she uses it with levy money, but I'm quite certain that she'll apply for grants that will build this park. How she distributes our levy money is not really a conversation for right now. I don't have her budget before me.
So the purpose of this agreement that someone had with Parks and Rec was just to go into a partnership. It doesn't sound like it was thought out of what's the best location for this to occur. And now that we have another issue with the possibility of a school closing, it just seems that maybe we should wait till we know what's going to happen to that school. Because if we're going to put in a playground, maybe with this sensory playground, that location may be ideal for the most students in the county.
And what I heard Mrs. Meyer say is she's open to future partnerships, so that would be fantastic. This property was selected because Shepherdstown does not have a public park, so in part, that will help Shepherdstown get a public park. And she's trying to incorporate sensory things into the park so that, as she says, it's a destination playground where people can come and they can have sensory things as well as play in a park.
I've never heard of a destination playground, so that's why I'm saying it would have been helpful to have a presentation to get the bigger picture. Will there be a playground for our children on the property that the school system purchased for
Yes, ma'am.
children?
Yes, ma'am.
Separate playground?
Yes, ma'am.
And is there going to be a pool? Because it says so in this plan, swim area. Does that mean there will be a pool?
Stormwater management, I believe.
Right. And definitely when we write the ground lease, she can write things in the ground lease, but everything comes back to the school system approving what Parks and Rec puts on there. We have input as they develop the land.
Ms. White, I'm sorry. So I have a question, because when we first looked at the land and everything for Shepherdstown Elementary, I remember there being a place that said something about a park, and I asked that question, and I was told that that is something separate that would be for Parks and Rec. It wouldn't have anything to do with Jefferson County Schools. And now we're here and we're hearing that it does have something to do with Jefferson County Schools, and that we're going to partner with Jefferson County Parks and Rec. I remember it was said that we thought that they might be putting in like a sort of like a little water park or a water pad or something like that. So I just wanted to know, from the time we started on Shepherdstown Elementary until today, what is different? What made it ours?
There is nothing that is different. It was a future set aside so that when Parks and Rec was ready, that was set aside so that we could come to this moment for a ground lease.
Okay, but that's not how that was explained back then. It was definitely said that that was a separate part. It wasn't going to be Jefferson County Schools, would have nothing to do with that. That would be Jefferson County Parks and Rec, and it just so happens that it was on the
No, we've always owned the 101 acres at Shepherdstown.
Okay, well, I asked the question specifically back then, and that's not the answer that.
Well, I apologize for your misunderstanding.
Ms. Bratton's point, to Ms. Bratton's point, what I hear you saying is the land has been set aside. We have as much to do with it as far as being able to grant the lease. After the lease is granted, developing it for the grant, putting the stuff on top of it, you will be able to come back and go back and forth with making sure that what we think, or what you're putting on there, what you're deciding to put on there, we think is acceptable. But as far as the maintenance of the property, the liability of the property, all the things above are not Jefferson County Schools. They will become Parks and Rec's responsibility. Is that my understanding?
That is how the lease is written.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Is it possible to put something in this agreement that if, sorry, I'm not sure if that's you or me, that if you are not able to obtain grant funding, which I agree, you are very good at that, But if you're not able to secure grant funding after 5 years, 10 years, that we have the option to reevaluate what we do with that property. I just wouldn't want to be hung up for 30 years if unfortunately you're not able to secure funding.
So as with any lease, it can be broken. If you would like that language, if you would like our legal to revisit that language in there to make sure that that is adequately written, we can do so.
As long as it doesn't jeopardize your ability to get that funding, which I don't think it would. I think that anyone could see that, forgive the term, but an escape clause as just good business sense. But if we have something else that we can profitably do with the property, if you're not able to secure the funding, because I think what you're plan on building is a great idea, but if that doesn't pan out, I think it would behoove us to have an option. That's my 2 cents.
I have another question. This destination location, groups can come from all over anytime during the day, correct?
It's a public park, so yes.
It's a public park. So who will provide the security for the children in our school there at Shepherdstown Elementary?
The way the property lays, we're near Covenant Baptist, and this is at the other end of the 100 acres against Gardner Lane. There is an access road that is totally built through to Gardner's Lane, so we can certainly direct traffic into the public park through Gardner's Lane versus putting them down on the end of the property near the children, who are going to be fenced in. Their elementary part will be fenced in.
The bond was created for the schools, and this originally for the property that was purchased before I was on the board, so I don't know. Was the public informed that 38 acres of this purchase would be given to Parks and Rec?
Since I've been involved in the project, it has always been discussed.
So it's written in the bond?
No, it is not written in an actual bond call.
I just wonder how much that matters, because I don't know enough about that, but I would.
The bond call speaks to building a school. It doesn't speak to the land we already owned.
We purchased the land prior to the bond.
That is correct.
So you just purchased land with money that was already here without
Correct.
a bond or anything?
Correct.
The bond was for the schools?
Bond was to build, yes.
We purchased both sections of land, Shepherdstown
Yes.
and Ranson, prior to the bond. And then we ran the bond to actually build the schools.
Accurate.
And I believe, Ms. Myers, there is money that you will be able to use for this park, or at least use as like matches for grants, because I know a lot of grants require a match. So are you fairly confident that you will be able to financially build the park?
Yes, at this point in time, we have set aside $30,000 a year for the past, I believe, 4 years that could be used as a match toward the playground was the main item to start to build first, and then it would expand from there.
So you have $120,000 right now to use as a match
For any grants that we would potentially apply for.
Right, okay. And then you have future funds coming through the levy that would be allocated if need be. All right, so this evening you're asking us to go ahead and approve the ground lease, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then once we approve it, you'll take it to your board for approval, is that correct?
That's correct, she would.
Okay.
And she's looking to do that in September at our next meeting.
Is it possible to table this until we have more information and have the maybe like type of grants that will be written, more information on the park itself, you know, the use, the security, there's a lot of pieces that are missing here.
But those aren't our pieces. Those are Parks and Rec pieces.
Well,
Our only
security of
piece-
our schools is our piece. That's a huge piece.
Right, but
It's just like I'll equate it to the use of our athletic fields. We have many groups that aren't part of the school system, some groups that aren't part of the state, and they're using our fields, and it's the same thing. Lots of people on and off of our property.
But they're not using our fields during the day when our children are at school, because in most cases, it's the children who go to those schools who are using it, right? So at this point, Ms. Meyer said that it's for all-day use. So it could be used for, people whose children don't come to our schools, it could be used all throughout the day, but it's also going to be used for our children, is what I just understood, right? For playground uses for Jefferson County students who
We'll
go
have
to
we're not taking our
Shepherdstown.
children there. We'll have a separate.
We'll have a separate playground for our students at
okay.
the school. So this would be for, our kids would be for after-school use with their parents who are bringing them to the park.
Oh, okay, I thought she just said that it's all day, you could use it anytime.
I think she was referring to a community member who might homeschool their child, could bring their child to the playground, but that's separate from the playground that we have for Shepherdstown Elementary.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're not going to have our students there during the day. Our students will be at our school on our playground in the fenced-in area. So
Yes.
this is just a public park that happens to be, a half a mile from the school or however long that road is.
I thought that we had a need for property for a school for children with special needs, and that, what happened to that? I mean, here's property, 38 acres. That's not big enough.
The architect said it was not suitable to build a building because it's too narrow.
I just feel like this is just thrown at me, and it would just have been helpful to have some more information. So just,
Are there any more questions we can answer for you?
I don't know what my questions are, because I didn't have a lot of, basic information. What was provided, it says swim area, so it looks like there's going to be a pool.
That's SWM, which stands for Stormwater Management.
That is correct.
It's not SWIM, SWIM, it's SWM, which stands for Stormwater Management. So it's retention basins, it's those kinds of things that will control stormwater as they leave the site.
This is not a good location, that corner. That's a really busy, bad intersection. I don't know how they're going to change the road there, but, I mean, I can see why you would say it's not usable land. Anyway, I don't have any more questions.
Are there any other questions that would help this evening?
I would like to see whether it's legal or somebody else take a look at the potential to reevaluate it. Just in the event that you can't find funding, I would hate to lock us in and then have no options.
Any other questions? All right. Right now, there's a motion on the table for action on the ground lease agreement with Jefferson County Parks and Recreation to build a new park in Shepherdstown. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Yeah, I was just going to abstain because I just need more information. And I don't know my questions yet because I just want to know maybe what's going to happen with North Jefferson and, maybe we could really use some help
But
there.
this is something totally different. This is a 38-acre park. We don't have 38 acres at North Jefferson to put a public park.
Well, but there is a lot of extra land at the new Ranson Elementary School, and there will be a high percentage of children with autism attending that school. I mean, I am not in any way advocating for closing a school. I'm just saying maybe we could wait to see what happens with the rest of the schools in the county.
And Ranson has a public park, if I'm correct.
Yes, and I'll just say that sometimes the autistic children, because there are hubs for their programs, they are actually more scattered out than just right in that district. So when you put the destination park in that is not to be used during a school day, that would be a parent taking their child and seeking out that sensory park wherever we located it in Jefferson County.
If I understood you correctly, Ms. Myers, you're open to looking at other properties that we can partner with you?
We are. This has been, a discussion, I want to say probably 10 years ago. We started these meetings and discussions. We met with outside agencies. We met with Frederick County, Virginia. We met with their Parks Department. We met with their school board. We've met with Frederick County in Maryland that does the same thing. We've had these discussions with, Winchester Public Schools uses their parks. Loudoun County is the same way. So this was something that was brought up a long time ago, is that we wanted to start and move forward in that direction and build these partnerships because it benefits everyone in Jefferson County. We're both working to benefit the children of the county and benefit our residents. And this idea of building these MOUs and these partnerships, this is the first step to that, where we're coming into a brand new school. A brand new location that we could start this process, instead of trying to go back and, build something at a school that's already been master planned and already been developed. And we probably started this probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I know it was one of those pre-COVID things that we started those discussions, and then once COVID hit, everything changed a little bit. So we are at the point where we feel that we're ready to try to move forward to do this for a community that's continuing to grow. We have a lot of master plans for parks that are being built out. We just built a small inclusive playground at San Michael's Park, which has been a big attraction. There's been a lot of people and a lot of families that have come and used that facility and have been very appreciative of that, and are all excited and and ready to move forward. Because that's the number one question: when are you going to build a bigger one? So I think we're at the point where we know the community is wanting this. We know it's a need in the community, and we wanted to move forward with expanding services, again, to all areas of the county. So in Shepherdstown, because it's in our master plan to expand and have a public park there, this was, again, kind of that perfect fit to start and move forward. But at this point, we've had a lot of these discussions in committee meetings and within staffing between the schools and between Parks and Rec. But my board, needs to know and is at the point where they're ready to move forward, but they need to get the blessing of the school board before we can really go forward with development and that, that type of thing. They want to know that this is something the school board wants to move forward with.
So, go ahead. Thank you. So, quick question. We keep saying that Shepherdstown doesn't have a park, a public park. What is Morgan's Grove? Is it not a public park?
It's privately owned.
It's a privately owned park.
There are a couple. It's down by the park.
And then there's another one that's down, it's right down the street from Shepherd University, because I used to play at it when I was younger, so I know that there is a park there. I don't know about other parks in Shepherdstown, but I do know about those two. And also, you just said that there's parks in Ranson, which there are, because there's the one on 3rd Avenue, and then there's the one across from Domino's. So, but the school is way further down the road from those two parks. So I think that that would be a good place to have a sensory park if we were going to do one.
And we are open to those discussions to look at potentially, two parks if that is what the school board would like to do. Again, we're ready to at least move forward and
Right.
start that relationship.
Okay.
Develop.
Right. So once again, I would go back and ask the board if we can table this until we get more information, because it just doesn't seem like we have enough information to make a solid
We've already
decision.
it down 1 to 4, but what we can do is we can ask Dr. Bishop to put it on our next agenda again, and
We can add, Joyce can work with legal to add the clause about the escape clause, if you will, and reevaluation of if Parks and Rec is unable to receive the grants. I think in general, community partnerships with other county agencies, I think, is healthy and responsible. It is one of those things where you can improve by sharing resources and committing resources. It gives you an opportunity to improve services and opportunity. And this is a great chance to do that and to demonstrate that both organizations are being good stewards of money and partnering to do this. So if you will let us know what questions you need to have answered in the next week, so we can have it on the next agenda, we'll be happy to do that. And then by then, we should also be able to have the reevaluation clause in the lease agreement.
And I totally agree with you. It would be great to partner with Parks and Rec, but we just need to make sure that we're partnering at the right location. Okay.
Well, this might.
Especially when we're talking about sensory.
Yeah, what I'd like you to think about, though, is this is the first location, not necessarily the location.
How long will it take to get the second?
I'm not sure.
Because if it took them, how many years did you say to save 120,000? Did you say 30 years?
4 years.
4 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
So, as levy dollars and as other resources become available to Parks and Rec, I mean, having the opportunity to have that lease available frees Mrs. Myers and Parks and Rec staff up to now to be able to write the grants. Otherwise, they're writing a grant for no location, and they're not viewed as well as if you have an identified location.
To San Michael's, where there's already a park. It just would be most helpful to the community if there was a park where it was centrally located, more access to more children.
I'm not sure that Parks and Rec has access to a privately owned park to improve it, though, I guess is the point.
I don't know what you're saying. I'm just thinking, Ranson, the new school there, that a lot more people would be able to access that, because Shepherdstown is pretty close to San Michael's, and we don't have the high population of children with autism that I'm aware of in Shepherdstown.
And I think what Mrs. Myers is saying is that it is in their master plan to build a park in Shepherdstown, so that's the opportunity that they're seeking. And they're willing to partner with additional locations with the school system.
We'll bring it back. If you'll let us know in the next week what questions we can answer for you, it gives you some time to think about it, and then email us those questions, and we'll get you some answers.
I do think it's a great opportunity. I think, to Ms. Twyford's point, I think it is a good idea to have that revisit clause in there. Just makes logical sense, but just in case something was to happen, because we know how your boards change as well. So we know how that goes. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it probably would help to see that, but if you look at San Michael's and if you head towards Shepherdstown, I think it's about 8 or 10 miles, if I'm not mistaken, as I travel up Route 230. I think that's what I see the sign all the time say. But I think actually Ranson is probably maybe even a little bit closer mileage-wise to St. Michael's Park than even Shepherdstown would be. But I'm not 100% sure about that with mileage, but it might kind of help to see that, just for the public to see how that all looks around the park. But I think, like you said, you have to start somewhere, and this is a good opportunity to have a public park in that end of the town, and I think it'd be well received from the community. So thank you.
I had the pleasure of serving as the liaison for the Parks and Rec for the first 6 years I was on the board. And, you know, I know you guys are very thoughtful in what you do and the master plan and all the processes you go through that. And the, you know, Shepherdstown Park, hopefully we can make that a reality. And just a reminder that, you know, we do get these packets on Wednesday prior to the meeting. So if we have questions, we should probably go ahead and ask them prior to the meeting, because now we're holding up Ms. Myers going to her board to get permission to sign off on this. So, have they talked about this in the Parks and Rec board the past couple of years that you've been the liaison on that? Okay. All right, well, hopefully we'll have better news next time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. We already voted it down, and so I asked Dr. Bishop if he would go ahead and put it on the next agenda as well. All right, next up we have discussion and action on Celebrate Freedom Week, September 10th through 17th.
West Virginia Code requires county school boards or county boards of education to establish a full week recognized as Celebrate Freedom Week during the regular school year. My recommendation is that the Board of Ed recognize September 10 through 17 as Celebrate Freedom Week. That is like a Tuesday to a Tuesday, which is a little bit odd in celebration weeks, but I wanted to try to encompass both Constitution Day as well as September 11th there. Did mention to principals that this was going to be brought to you for approval, and you have the Celebrate Freedom Week guidance document that the Department of Ed has released, and we'll also share that out to principals so that teachers have some idea about what kinds of activities should be done during that week.
I like the Tuesday to Tuesday. It gives you the opportunity to have like a bigger project due on the, you know, over the weekend.
Do we have to vote first
Well,
before
It
questions?
wasn't a question. But go ahead.
is there a motion, and you're asking for action to approve
Yes.
Celebration Freedom
Yes,
Week?
please.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve Celebration Freedom Week for September 10th through 17th?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Twyford.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. And, I mean, we don't really have a choice, do we?
No, and my interpretation is the Board of Education to establish, so that would require a vote on your part to establish that week. So that's why you have it before you this evening.
I think there's more than just the week, because I was reading it, and part of the code, we have to establish not only the week, but what is going to happen during that week.
Correct.
And that's not, I don't see that anywhere.
Well, schools will have, and teachers, depending on grade level and class subject areas, et cetera, will have the opportunity to develop instructional activities that meets the requirement of the, that's available in the guidance document. So we'll have in our principals folder a folder for each school, and then they can dump their activities in that they've done, that they're planning to do. So the activities will be planned by classroom teachers.
I don't know, I'm not good with reading code, but it just looks like the board is supposed to select what classes. So maybe as simple as saying the board's leaving it up to the classroom to do it. I don't know, but just based on the wording of this, we were supposed to have that, I guess, tonight to vote.
I think it's important that we empower our classroom teachers to be able to determine what activities are age and grade level appropriate, and what subject areas it's appropriate in order to meet the requirement.
And our packet had all the information about grade level, what was required, and so now we just rely on the teachers and the
Correct.
principals to make sure that the requirements are met.
That's correct.
So, Ms. Skinner, should we change, keep the vote, but just change what we just voted on, just to amend the vote, to make sure that it matches what the state code here says? I didn't read the state code, but I'm just asking.
It's just saying to establish the week. That's discussion and action on Celebrate Freedom Week, and then only part of the code is listed on the agenda, establishing a week, but I believe that we are required to do more than just establish the week. On page 3 of the 17-page document, the code says full week of classes during the week selected by the County Board of Education shall be recognized as Celebrate Freedom Week. And then it goes on.
I think your interpretation is pretty narrow. It says the week established by, if I'm not mistaken, would you say page 3?
Things. We're supposed to establish a week, and we are supposed to approve or, select what's going to happen during that week. It's not enough just to say, okay, the week of September 11th will be recognized as Celebrate Freedom Week without any kind of direction of what it's to include. We're not fulfilling this, in my opinion, but.
Okay, so Ms. Twyford, would you mind amending your motion to say that we are approving Celebrate Freedom Week, September 10th through 17th, to include the per grade level guideline directives provided by the Department of Education? Absolutely. Okay. And Ms. Ogden, are you good with seconding that? Okay. So any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Next, we have board member comments and committee reports. Ms. Twyford?
I just wanted to say congratulations to the North Jefferson interim assistant principal and interim head principal. Good luck, ladies.
All right, Ms. Ogden? Ms. Bratton?
Yes, agree with Ms. Twyford. Congratulations, ladies, and good luck. Right, but I agree with you, but congratulations. So the next thing that I would like to bring to our attentions is that our rising 7th and 12th graders are required by the state of West Virginia to have a Tdap and meningococcal vaccine to start the 2024-25 school year. The Jefferson County Health Department is open to schedule appointments Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. And also the health department, they have been holding extended clinic hours, but it looks like the next one and the last one listed is for August the 14th, which is Wednesday. So if you have not gotten that, if you can't get an appointment with your primary care, possibly check into maybe getting that at the clinic, because that is a definite, it's required. So it's not like we could say, oh, you don't have to have that. No, you have to have it. Thank you.
Dr. Joy?
EPIC, I met with EPIC last week, and we voted on officers, and the members unanimously voted for Mr. Banks to be the president. Let's see, I wanted to bring up an issue for maybe on an agenda for next time. Several teachers are concerned that the $20 stipend they've been told by their principal it was removed. However, we ended up tabling that. We never did remove that. But principals have told their staff, oh no, it's 1/7 only, and now they're deciding whether or not they want to sub. So I think that has to be dealt with.
Next meeting.
And Friday is the block party, and there's the African American parade is Saturday. Friday night, there's free backpacks, haircuts, food, entertainment. There's a whole 2 days starting Friday night, running through Saturday. I think that's everything. Oh, and just remind everybody that our teachers and all of our support staff, bus drivers, cafeteria staff, we highly value them, and if there's anything we can do to help our, especially our new teachers, I know Dr. Bishop is planning to check in on new teachers to see that if they have anything that they need. I'm planning to give things to people that I'm trying to get rid of after teaching for 35 years. So just teachers are always willing to take used items and gift cards. Anyway, just remember that our teachers are, it's so easy for them to just drive about 10 miles down the road and maybe double their income. So we have to bend over backwards to make our employees happy, I think. I don't know how to say that in a politically correct way.
Ms. Skinner, can I just say something? So thank you for announcing the African American Festival that is held by the NAACP of Jefferson County. On Friday evening, the youth block party will start at the Ranson Civic Center at 6 o'clock. The gospel concert and festival will begin at 6 o'clock at the Betty Roper Auditorium at Wright Denny Elementary School. And then on Saturday, there is a parade that will come through Ranson from Ranson through Charlestown, excuse me. And once the parade is over, there will be vendors, whether there be food vendors or just vendors selling different things available on from Academy Street down through West Washington Street. Thank you.
My Rumsey update, Russell Penner has settled in as the new principal director over there. And they took a group of kids to Skills USA, and Jefferson County students, 3 of them got gold, 5 of them got silver, and 1 of them got bronze. So that's something that we don't always hear about, so great for those students. The Jefferson County Development Authority, the executive director position has closed, and we're holding interviews for that on August 23rd and 30th. So hopefully we'll have a new executive director here in the near future. All right, Dr. Bishop, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I have a few comments this evening. First is each of you has at your seat a list. It's 1 page. It is the schedule. As you know, the potential for a school decommissioning in West Virginia requires a very specific process. We had a presentation several months ago with the decommissioning and the redistricting information provided by Mr. Willingham in Transportation. And we also ask for the board's approval to continue to move forward on collecting information and moving through the process. Numbers 22 and 23 provide the dates of the local school-based hearings. We must have a hearing at North Jefferson as well as at T.A. Lowry, and I will remind you of those dates moving forward, but those dates have been scheduled. But this is the process, and with the schedule filled out for potential decommissioning of North Jefferson. Jumpstart was today. It was the 2nd year that we have done this. It was better than last year. The star of the show, we had 2 actually. One was a young man by the name of Braden Atkins. He is the 70th West Virginia Mountaineer. So he was with us all day, a delightful young person, and I can tell you that if every young person is like him, the world is in good hands, because he was a wonderful young man, spent the day very engaging. We visited every school site with the exception of 2 that we put together. Jefferson and Wildwood were together, and then Shepherdstown Middle and Shepherdstown Elementary also was one site instead of two, and then OLC and Wright Denny also were a combined location. So we started at 8 this morning, and we finished about 2:30 after we got a quick bite of lunch provided by Glory Days. And we were on back to work for a few hours before the meeting tonight. The second star of the show was Cynthia Carper. You might remember that Cynthia Carper was named our Service Person of the Year for 2024. And not only was she the Jefferson County Service Person of the Year, but she is in the top 5 and will go to Charleston, September 10th, and I will accompany her there for the final selection. So best of luck to Cynthia. She was warmly received, as she should be, by our faculty and staff in our buildings. And we have a lot of great people in Jefferson County, and she is just one of the many who does this for the right reason. So we're really proud of her and wish her the best of luck here in a couple of weeks when she goes to Charleston. Summer projects, Joyce and I talked on late last week about summer projects, gym floors. Washington High School is still underway. We're trying to finish that one up. Wright Denny windows. If you've been up to Page Jackson, you'll see a new entrance road to Page Jackson and new paving, so the potholes are gone. So it's a nice, smooth ride up to Page Jackson. HVAC at this time of year is always a challenge. And as teachers and employees come back to work and we get fully, or at least occupied with staff, I think the first few days that teachers were back, we had like 40 work orders for HVAC, so that's always a challenge, but that's in every school. So had a lot of summer work done this year, and all of those projects have gone extremely well, and Joyce and Brandon and our maintenance team and those who write the procurement documents certainly deserve a lot of credit for making sure that those things are done. Kelsey gave her communications update. When she first started, I said to her, my challenge to her was find out how people receive information and let's make sure they get it that way. And you saw in her presentation tonight, I'm not a Facebook person, I'm not on social media, but that's the way a lot of people get information. And tapping into that now and posting or having job postings and other announcements be delivered in a medium that people actually read and accept is, I think, a great step forward for Jefferson County. So the work of that department, our communications department, has been stellar, and looking forward to a lot of positive movement in that department continuing. The last, the reel. Well, I don't see them because I'm not on the forms of social media, so unless Kelsey shows them to me, I don't see them. The last thing that I would mention, and I mentioned the partnerships earlier, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for partnerships between the school district and other community organizations. Several months ago, we had a visitor here that talked about the YMCA and potentially coming to Jefferson County, and they're looking at partnering with a community group, whether that's the county government or WVU Medicine, and potentially the school district. So we do have, YMCA is interested in coming to Jefferson County, and we are, I think we should sit down and have a conversation about what that looks like and whether or not that would be on property at Ranson, because that is a sizable piece of property. The partnership with the parks, I think, is an important step forward if we can answer your questions, and maybe even other locations. So the YMCA did reach out today. They are in the process of looking at a final decision and moving to Jefferson County, and the potential for a $10 to $20 million grant to build a facility that would provide a multitude of services to citizens here. So, and the Ranson school site is something that they would like to discuss. And I think we should sit down and have that conversation moving forward, and potentially allow them to begin to process. We need to have some more conversation at this level, but to allow them to begin to process grant opportunities that might be available to them, even through the EPA, which is an unlikely partner, I think, but if it's available, I think that's great. But again, as I said earlier, services and opportunity to a community means a lot, and school districts are in a unique opportunity to be able to partner with other community groups to improve the conditions for our citizens. So it's worth a conversation. And that's all I have.
All right. And then we do have an executive session for personnel for number 41 from the original consent agenda. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Thank you, Ms. Twyford. Thank you, Ms. Bratton. And there will be action at the end of this executive session, correct, Dr. Bishop?
Yes.
All right. All in favor of going to executive session, say aye. Oppose? Okay, thank you. All right.
Yes. 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 I'm sorry.
I hate making that kind of amendment. All right, is there a motion to go back into open session? Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Brad. All right, is there a motion to approve number 41 on the consent agenda? Mr. Eric Jenkins? Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving number 41 from the consent agenda from Mr. Eric Jenkins, say aye. Opposed? All right, thank you very much.